VHS files contain spoilers, adult content, and harsh language. Listener discretion is advised. Oh, hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Max will help you right over there.
Well, how may I help you this evening? We have it all. The best selection of videotapes in Santa Carla.
Is it true that Santa Carla is the murder capital of the world?
Well, there are some bad elements around here.
Are you telling me that we moved to the murder capital of the world?
Tonight we're talking Lost Boys on the VHS files. Hello everyone, welcome back to the VHS files, and welcome to our official start of Friday Night Fright Fest, where we're going to be bringing you guys horror movies every Friday through the month of October. So
spooky!
It's time to get it started.
It's spooky season!
Spooky season. So I'm Josh, I'm your host.
I'm Jenny Lou.
Jason from the great state of Texas.
I'm Eric.
And tonight we are going to talk a vampire movie. Does everybody like vampires?
Blah, 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 blah.
I don't love vampires, honestly, but
Oh,
continue.
come on, dude.
What?
This is a hot take right out of the gate.
I like this.
There are some great vampire movies,
Yes.
Oh, yes.
but there's a lot of bad ones, too.
So tonight the vampire movie we're going to be watching is going to be not Dracula.
I love Josh's Romanian accent. Oh, man.
You couldn't wait long
All
for that
hot
one.
and bothered right there, man.
Tonight we are talking the teenage vampire movie Lost Boys.
Michael and Sam have just moved to Santa Carla, California. They're about to discover its secret.
Notice anything unusual about Santa Carla yet?
No. It's a pretty cool place. If you're a Martian.
Or a vampire?
Lost Boys was released on July 31st, 1987, amongst the likes of Predator, Full Metal Jacket, RoboCop, Jaws the Revenge, La Bamba,
Best Jaws.
and Adventures in Babysitting, another childhood favorite of ours.
Great movie.
So it was directed by Joel Schumacher, who had recently come off doing St. Elmo's Fire, which got him a lot of clout in the filmmaking industry. And then he would go on to do movies like Flatliners and Batman Forever and Batman and
Bat
Robin.
Nipples.
Bat
Bat
Nipples.
Nipples.
Joel Schumacher. Bat
And
Nipples.
the one that got a bunch of Oscar buzz, A Time to Kill, which is a very good movie.
Yes.
Had a
Great.
budget of $8.5 million and did a total box office of $32.2 million. So, but again, we're back in 1987 for this go around. So, Eric, take us back in time.
We're sending you back!
Whoa, this is heavy.
Well, Josh, we're talking about the Lost Boys this week, but in 1987, no movie could stand up to the juggernaut that was Three Men and a Baby. That banked $240 million with a budget of $11 million.
Wow.
Whoa.
It was a great year for cartoons. We were introduced to The Simpsons on the Tracy Ullman Show. We had the debut of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon and DuckTales, and Josh's favorite, Saber Rider and the Star Sheriffs.
Those have a bunch of classic theme songs. This is
Yeah,
took everything
I know
for
you
me
love that one,
not to
Josh.
start singing on those.
Big albums that year were U2's Joshua Tree and Michael Jackson's Bad. The biggest song of the year was also Jason's favorite song and current ringtone, Walk Like an Egyptian.
Jay and Skippy do the bango rule.
He loves it. And then President Ronald Reagan gave his famous Tear Down This Wall speech in West Berlin, which coincidentally is Jenny's favorite Reagan speech. And finally, the antidepressant Prozac makes its debut in the U.S., effectively eliminating any and all sadness forever.
No, sorry.
That were true.
Unfortunately, we live in 2020.
Do they have one huge Prozac pill for us all to eat at one time? And maybe chase it with some vodka?
Can you just put it in the water supply at this point? I mean,
Okay, this podcast is to get us out of that funk, so to continue.
right.
All right, and a couple of things I noted was Boy George was banned from a British TV show for being, quote-unquote, a bad influence.
Too gay.
Kylie Minogue released the hit The Locomotion.
Wow.
And Jason will respect this.
Oh.
Big album of this year was Guns N' Roses released Appetite for Destruction.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the jungle, baby. You're going to die.
Another one of those childhood things. That album got me through being a child. So I had to mention that one. But so that was it for 1987. We're going to get into Lost Boys. Starring Jason Patric, Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, the two Coreys, Kiefer Sutherland, and Jamie Gertz, who I'm definitely going to be talking about here in a little bit.
Josh's love of his life, besides Jenny, right there. Or his childhood love of his life.
So let's just get right into the nitty gritty. First time watches and any kind of memories we have of the Lost Boys going into this, Jenny?
I don't think I saw this movie until high school. Because, as I've said before, I wasn't allowed to watch scary movies. And I definitely would have not have been allowed to watch this. So I probably watched this like on TV in high school. I don't remember distinctly watching it, but
Was there anything in particular that you took from it when you saw it? Like what made an impression, or is it just one that you ended up seeing a bunch of times?
I think I just ended up seeing it a bunch of times. I don't have, it wasn't one of those that I actively sought out to watch over and over. But I enjoyed it enough to watch it multiple times.
Let's skip over to Eric. We'll not go non-traditional style. Eric, you got any fondness of this one?
Shocking development there. Well, I don't. I'm similar to Jenny. I don't think I saw this till high school when I started really just watching every horror film I could possibly get my hands on. But I think the thing that sticks with me from this film is Tim Capello on the saxophone, and pretty much that segment, which kind of jumping ahead, but that's this movie, the Pier to me. But yeah.
Jason, how about you?
Oh, I can't even remember what I saw, but I know I saw it as a young kid, because obviously my mom let me watch anything back then. Didn't matter the blood and gore or anything like that. But I know she liked, because she liked vampire movies. So I remember watching it a few times. It was something that I think I actually might have seen like on the HBO movie of the week before actually seeing it from a rental store. But definitely so many memorable moments in that movie. Just Kiefer's role as David it's still one of, I don't care. He was, like Eric said earlier about the whole vampire thing, it was good. This is still a top 3 easily vampire movie in my life.
I might have to agree with you there. I haven't really thought about ranking vampire movies, but it's definitely up there.
Yeah, it's definitely up there for me. Many memories of watching over and over. And then, of course, as you get into the dating ages, you watch these movies with your girlfriends in junior high and high school and all that kind of stuff. And they're all just like, oh, it's the best little love story ever type thing. And every girl you did had to have the cry little sister thing on like every cassette. I remember recording it off of the radio just so I could have the single, so I didn't have to go buy it. So but great movie, many memories through junior high and high school watching that. So
yeah, I gotta say, watching it last night was watching it with kind of fresher eyes and sort of really picking it apart as opposed to just the entertainment value I got out of it when I was a kid. This is a really damn good vampire movie, just straight up.
It's a good movie.
Yeah, it's just a good movie.
Again, same as you. Watching it with a more critical eye this time. The pacing is great. I love the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Of course, not just the pier, but a lot of the nighttime shots with spotlights and
there's a couple
things
of
like that. There's some pretty cool stuff in there.
Yeah, there's a couple of shots in particular that I actually wrote notes about that I want to go over whenever we get to them. I think Jason brought up a good point that, not only are we the VHS era people, we're also cable TV kids. I mean, I think I would have to attribute a lot of what I watched, and this is probably one of those cases, to stuff that was just on HBO that you found on a whim.
Yeah.
Because I don't remember my mom really being that big into this movie. I'm sure she did once we started watching it a bit. But I gotta say, I'd probably attribute this one to a cable watch for sure.
Yeah.
And as far as I'll go ahead and start with this. Like, this was one of those movies when I was a kid where I had my first like boy girl thing, and it was Jamie Gertz in this movie. And as we're watching,
you even describe it like a child.
But I probably would have been 8 or 9 when I saw this, because I definitely wouldn't have seen it when it first came out. But at 8 or 9, when that was one of the first girls I saw.
8-year-old
in a
Josh
movie
felt some
was just
feelings he hadn't felt before.
I was like, wow,
This is like little baby boner for Josh.
yeah, exactly. But
there you have it.
Sex Talk with Jenny Browning.
She
The new
comes
episode of the VHS Files.
She comes on the screen and it's like, Dreamweaver.
yeah, I was Wayne in Wayne's World at that point when I was a kid.
Well, Jason Patrick feels the same way when he sees her.
Yeah. So
But
that
should
drew
we
me into this, along with the premise of it. So, I mean, what were you going to say, Eric?
Well, I'm just saying, should we start at the beginning? Because to me, the first 3 seconds of this movie, when that music hits, and the music in this is amazing.
Absolutely.
And that choir song, with the children's choir, I don't know what that song's called, but
it's
Shall Not Kill
I
or
didn't.
something. I don't know.
I didn't write the name of it down, but and it's the choir.
I mean, that
kids.
thing, you know where you're at immediately.
Yeah.
Boom.
And that
music
nice helicopter shot going over the water and going over to the amusement park. It opens in such a great way.
And the movie doesn't slow down from that point, really. I mean, you start and they're heading into Santa, what's it called?
Santa Carla in the movie.
Carla, but it's Santa Cruz in real life.
Yeah, Santa Carla isn't real.
They drop you right into it.
Yeah.
Immediately.
And you get this opening scene, which I think they set up so well. And they introduce you to a lot of people right here at this part, but not your main characters. And I think they open this up with a bit of mystery for everybody. I can imagine, if you didn't see any promo for this, or if it wasn't highly over publicized with trailers and stuff like that, like we'd get nowadays, you may go into this at the beginning thinking, oh, these mystery flying killers could be anybody we just saw on that merry-go-round. I think they do well with that. Like, it could be the Kiefer Sutherland's crew. It could be the others. I mean, it's just, you see that they have this beef with the security guy. So, and the way that plays out in the scene when they fly in and get him and the door rips off the car is a great way to draw the audience in.
But they get somebody else in the very opening shot, right?
No, that's the opening shot of the movie.
Jane, did you watch this movie?
I did.
I was asleep. Do the correct opening.
My notes are very succinct, so I don't have a lot of background in them. The perspective is so cool, though. Like,
first person.
This was one of the biggest takeaways.
Vampires.
Yeah, this is one of the biggest takeaways for me watching it this time was I kept thinking of Sam Raimi. The POV stuff, but also later there's some other things that there's multiple times that give me Evil Dead Raimi vibes throughout this movie.
Yeah, I can see that. I didn't even think about that, to be honest with you, but now that you say it, it makes total sense. But I think that's what makes this movie work so well is the POV shots. And again, like we talked about with Ghostbusters, they did a lot with a little. Again, we're back to stuff that they did with lights and fans.
And
just camera work. Yeah.
My main thing is I know Richard Donner is just the executive producer on this, but what is his fascination with beaches and waterfront? Because remember, we talked about it in Goonies. That's a beach town.
Yeah.
And he does Lethal Weapon too. Riggs lives on the beach.
Yeah.
And here, this whole movie is
That's
set
true.
on the coastline. I'm like, what was it? It had the
And he was-
time that Richard Donner he's like, I want to go to the beach after shooting my Superman movies in the 70s. I just want to spend time at the beach. So
Stay close to home. Yeah.
I was just like,
Well, he was attached as director here initially, right?
yeah, originally.
Yeah.
He wanted
And-
to make a Goonies vampire movie, basically. And they were like,
Right.
no, let's
Yeah.
not have 8-year-old vampires.
Well, no, they liked the idea of the movie. It's just in the production of it and where everything fell, he ended up taking the Lethal Weapon job. So he was directing Lethal Weapon. He couldn't
Good
get
call there.
he couldn't go over to the Lost Boys, even though it was kind of something he spawned.
Yeah,
And that's why-
a lot
and-
of the 80s teen style stuff comes from
Yeah,
Schumacher.
yeah, and Schumacher's fairly new to the game at this point too. Like I
Oh, yeah.
said in the opening, he had just done St. Elmo's Fire and had gotten some clout with that, and was working with the Brat Pack. So he had his foot in the door. But when they brought this to him, I think they said they wanted it to be more kid friendly, and he wanted to spice it up some.
Spice it up. Yeah, I read that the Frog Brothers were supposed to be Boy Scouts in the original.
Yeah, 8-year-old kids or something. I think the
And,
vampire was
so-
going to be in their early teens, like 12 and 13. I was like,
One thing I did notice about this, since Kiefer Sutherland was just coming off of Stand By Me, basically, before this, how there are, just how much I noticed, and didn't notice back then, but notice now, how they split the age groups up. Like you've got your older teenagers, and then you've got your, the younger side. So,
And the
and they're
adults.
always in two different groups. And when they come together, everything meshes very well and works for the movie they're going for. So you got the same thing here with Sam and Michael, but Michael's part of the older teenagers, Sam's part of the younger. And we were talking about this last night, is like, how old is Sam in this? Because
I don't think it ever
Yes,
says.
this
does
was
it?
going to come up.
there's so much that leaves. It's like, okay, if he's in high school, why the hell's he wearing these pajamas?
That was the
It's as
fashion.
if it's as if they casted a 14-year-old for a role that was written for like an 8-year-old.
Right.
And I guess that might actually be the case. But it is odd, the bathtub stuff,
Yeah.
all that stuff. It does. It's like, this doesn't feel quite right, you know?
Yeah.
It makes me think of what's his name? The baby from Roger Rabbit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he films the shot, like Corey Haim's in the bathtub. He's like singing into his brush, and then they're like cut, and he like lights up a cigarette and goes and like bangs
Snorts
a
2
hooker
lines
in
of
his-
cocaine.
Yeah.
Give me my next line.
Well, this was
Where are my pajamas?
This
I spilled
was-
whiskey in my pajamas.
Corey Haim before he became the infamous Corey Haim.
Yeah.
Right.
He was very, very new to film at this point, and this is where he met Corey Feldman and how that whole relationship started.
And he's great in this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it works.
I don't mean to knock the performance. He's really likable and fun in this. I
Oh
think
yeah,
he's
the
awesome.
performance is top notch. It's the wardrobe that I have issues
Well,
with.
it's some of the writing as
Yeah,
well. Yeah.
and I know I don't want to skip ahead, but since we're talking about him, that and the fact that he is a probably, I guess, close to puberty or right at puberty thing, and he's got a picture of sexy Rob Lowe on his wall.
Not on his wall, on his closet.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
on right there at the door. I mean, that's the first thing you see. So, and he's going to bed. He's looking
We'll
across the
get
room
there.
at Rob
Yeah.
Lowe. So
We'll get there. We'll get there.
So-
I have some notes about pertaining.
But I
What I want to say, I hate this song that's in the movie. Like,
Wait, that opening song?
I hate it.
Cry Little Sister.
Yes. So they
Okay,
played
podcast's
it
over. I'm done. I
at
quit.
least
Jenny.
3 times in this movie, and it's terrible.
it's the
I
theme
love
of
it.
the movie.
It's terrible.
Ooh,
It's
Your
so
opinion is
bad.
wrong.
I don't
No,
this
like
podcast
it.
just took a
Boo.
very nasty turn, ladies and gentlemen. What do you mean it's horrible?
We apologize for getting
It's
comments.
just drags on,
That's the
and
whole point.
I don't.
Okay,
It's
It-
slow.
here-
Okay,
here's-
hold
let
on,
me-
hold
All
on.
right,
There's
now we're
a-
having an argument about a song. Here we go. Yes. Go, Eric.
Okay. To me, conceptually, it ties in the Victorian vampire stuff to
Yeah.
the 80s pop culture thing. It is two sort of musical genres sort of sandwiched together, and maybe you don't like it, that's fine. But I think it sets the tone of the movie quite well.
It sets I mean, without that song, this movie I actually think is a little different.
Yeah.
Without that song, this movie is garbage.
What?
Almost. Yeah.
I'm not arguing against the meaning of the song. If you're talking about 80s songs and movies, this is not a good one. Like, to be the song.
That's just your opinion, man.
It is. I don't like it.
All right. Well,
all right, moving on.
That was our first little, little on-air argument over a song.
My first note.
wow.
I'm actually, it was my first note too, how great it was. But let's go back because we're kind of jumping all over the place here.
I love the intro to Santa Carla. Is that where you're going?
Yes, the intro to Santa Carla, the billboard, the back of the billboard, which apparently Santa Cruz was the murder capital at one point. They had in the early 70s, they had some, like, serial killers and a mass murder and like multiple serial killers in the area. So yeah, there's a little truth in that fiction, and I love the family dynamic. Again, you're getting a single mom in an era where the sort of nuclear family is kind of not holding up so much, and it's a great portrayal. I think they all feel like a family. The brothers feel like brothers. It feels natural. It feels like a pretty normal family for the most part.
And you got Diane Wiest, who probably was the biggest star they got for this, if you really think about it. I think she had been, Edward Herrmann had probably, I know he had done theater, but I don't know how many movies he had done.
Yeah, I think Diane Wiest, she'd already been nominated for some awards. Yeah. So she probably came in with the most clout in this.
But I love her as the mom.
Yeah,
she's so trying to do what's best for her kids and herself, and
all her decisions are
mom.
natural.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, you think about the roles she's played the mom in, like Footloose, and
Edward Scissorhands.
She's great in that. Yeah. So.
Parenthood.
But I love when they're coming into Santa Carla, though, and Mom, what's that smell? It smells like someone died. Again, just the conversation stuff that they get to move the plot lines along, and there's exposition without beating you over the head with it. Same thing with when they get into the town and you're driving around and seeing these people that populate Santa Carla.
I love all the shots of just people hanging out.
All the different kinds of people.
All different kinds of people, and you're setting the tone immediately.
But punk is very in Santa Carla.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a weird wave of punk, with what we'll get to with the concert with Tim Capello later, and it's just this different hybrid style of the 80s pop and the punk and all of that. I love when the guys they're going through town and Michael's looking for a job. He asks the one guy if they know of anything. He's like, nothing legal.
Yeah.
But the one thing I had to say about talking about movies like that, all right, they're coming into Santa Carla with this is what California looks like. As a kid, that was my one of my first ideas of what California looked like.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what California looks like. Oh, okay. 'Cause, you're a kid. You don't know. I lived in Texas most of my whole life. So you're like, wow. So that's what California looks like. And then you're like, you got woods and beaches and everything. It's like, oh, I want to go there one day. Then wait, no, there's vampires there. I think I'll stay in Texas.
Yeah. Don't go to the murder capital of the world.
Yeah, exactly. I'll hang out here with Leatherface.
Yeah. With murderous cannibal families.
Can't escape it, really.
But I love the juxtaposition of going through the town and where we're going to set this movie, and then you get to Grandpa's house. And this
Grandpa's playing dead on the front porch, which is wonderful. A great intro.
Like, I didn't even take a note of this just because it still leaves this lingering thing in my brain, but that is a terrible prank to pull on your family.
It really is.
At his age, it's like, dude, I thought you were really, like, I would have killed him.
Well, it's the murder capital of the world, so it would have just fit in.
Yeah, I guess. But then we wouldn't get all the great dialogue we get from Grandpa.
God,
He
I love
is
Grandpa's
the best grandpa.
You know, in a lot of the movies we've been watching so far, we've got our pranksters, and I love Grandpa as the prankster. Eric, you got a little bit of a smirk on your face.
You
What was
don't
that
think
for?
he's the best grandpa?
No, well, I think he's great in the movie and funny. Although I think he could have been a little more helpful.
Like we find out at the end. Oh, he was great at the end.
He could have saved everyone a lot of trouble if he was just open about. But I don't think it was his intention per se.
Yeah. Well, he drops hints all throughout the movie when they're talking to him. You know,
Yeah.
If all the corpses
It's like he
in Santa Carla
assumes
were to
they-
stand up at once, we'd have one hell of a population problem.
It's like he assumes they already know or something.
Which I want to talk about that when we get to the end of this movie, because I've got a little bit of some questions, or at least, or maybe some bones to pick with the way that they finish everything up. But other than that little bit of confusion that I have, I just his presence in this movie makes it all that much better for me.
And don't you dare touch his root beer, his Oreos, or anything on the second shelf.
Yeah,
I need
love the old
to
fart
make a shelf in my fridge so that my kids don't eat my stuff,
Yeah.
because that's a constant problem.
Well, the problem is back then kids would abide by that. Nowadays they have no respect. No respect. They just violate all this stuff.
But who reads the TV guide?
I used to. I did when I was a kid. I used to read the TV guide.
I do remember liking going through the TV guide and figuring out what was coming on.
And they always had little articles in a lot of them too. Like
Yeah, little
front and the
articles,
back.
little games, or like little quizzes and stuff.
Yeah, and don't dare rip
God,
the
Jenny,
tag.
you're such a hater
the tag
tonight.
off there either. So.
Hate.
But a great dialogue again that tells you all you need to know about where these kids are. But his house is a great setting, and I love that that's where we end up having the final battle scene and all of that. We also get introduced to Nanook. Beautiful dog.
Made me
Beautiful
want a
dog.
Siberian Husky so bad. Or
I
Alaskan
would
Malamute.
I would love to have one, but they shed so bad.
Nanook is one of the greatest film dogs.
Yeah.
There
He's one of the
said.
heroes of the movie.
He's a hero.
Oh, multiple times.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you also have Thorn, which won't get as much praise as Nanook, but still an adorable dog.
Great looking dog. No matter how bad you are, dogs are still cool.
Right.
I named one of my black labs Thorn because of this movie and Thorn.
Oh, awesome.
Back
That's awesome.
when I lived in Florida.
I named my daughter Nanook.
Does she shed too?
Yes, quite a bit.
So we go to our first little thing at the fair out on the boardwalk and whatnot, and this is where we get the infamous Tim Capello and Tom Capello. Is it Tim or Tom?
Tim.
Tom.
No, it's
And,
Tim.
Tom. Tim.
It's Tim.
Tim,
y'all.
Tom. So
Get it right.
I never would have thought this guy would be so synonymous with my life. Just in this
And
movie,
vampires.
in this movie, because it's one of those things that you think of Lost Boys, you think of that scene in him, because he strikes such a
He
vivid picture.
steals
He
the
leaves
show.
an impression.
Yes, he steals the
Yeah.
show. We're supposed to be caring about Michael and Star and what's going on, but you just cannot look away from that hunk of man.
I still believe.
Oil
And I
all over his
legitimately
chest.
like that song. Like, I like that song.
Yeah.
Straight up.
That's a better
No
song.
irony anywhere. I just like it.
And he is still in the music business today. And if you've listened to our first episode, my staff pick for the first episode was a band called Gunship. And he is actually featured on some of their songs playing saxophone and whatnot in their music. And which fits perfectly because they're such this throwback to that style of music back in those days. And I honestly, it fit the song that they put it in so well when I first heard it that I thought, well, they're just copying this. But no, when you go through and look, he actually played saxophone. And he was Tina Turner's saxophone player.
So he was known as a musician, not an actor. But they
Well,
put him in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's done some other acting too, because just in preparation for this, I looked up a video that was sort of a montage. It was that song, the I Still Believe song, but it had a montage of different things, and it looked like some footage of him acting in another movie. He had a gun. He was like in a gunfight shooting a gun. It also had some pretty intense gyrating on stage. He was grinding up on some background dancer girl, and they just keep playing this on a loop, like grind. Anyway, He's
I think
an interesting
Eric's in
character,
love.
like a
I think Eric's in-
bodybuilder. You know, it was like, what if, what was that guy's name? Forget it.
Well, Eric was having his Dreamweaver moment with Tim Capello or Tom Capello.
Tim Capello.
Nobody knows.
His name is Tim.
I was having my Dreamweaver moment with Star.
Yeah.
I can completely relate to Michael in this instance. But I don't even really know what it was.
She's real pretty.
She's very pretty. Very, very pretty.
Yes.
Pretty lady.
And it's a shame that she didn't go on to do a lot more things, in my opinion. She is fairly popular for another movie that I'm not quite too keen on her for, but and so we go from this great concert to them chasing Star around, and what does Sam find but a comic book store?
A comic book store, a real comic book store that is
Yes.
actually still open, apparently.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah. I love it, right? I love it. I love the comic store, of course, because I love comics.
We're all a bunch of comic nerds here.
We all grew up with comics, and also I love that they are kind of playing with the horror comic, which, for people that don't read comics, kind of predates the superhero thing. It was more like horror stuff, and we just inject that right into this movie, or vice versa. I'm not sure which, but it was just fun to be there. We also get a video store in this movie. So
Yeah.
Oh,
Max's Video Store.
little VHS files plug there. Got a video store in the movie. Just
I
for
was
us, right?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up over here when we get to it, but and then we get introduced to the Frog Brothers, which are great. It's almost as if Corey Feldman from the Goonies, when they had, it's like this alternate universe where in the Goonies they had to leave their house. So Corey Feldman's mouth character moves to California and starts working in a comic book store.
Oh, he talks way less than mouth.
Well, maybe he had some instances with vampires that made him not want to talk so damn much.
I don't think he smiles once in the entire movie.
Well, that's
He
what they
plays
told
it
him
pretty
to go for.
Super serious.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, Joel Schumacher told Corey Feldman, "Your character is Rambo."
Right.
And for like that's what he said. So Corey Feldman went and got a bunch of Rambo movies, and he was like, "This is your character. You play it like this."
I mean, he even wears the bandana at the end, but
Yeah. It makes sense, doesn't it?
And he
It's
speaks.
hilarious.
He's basically doing a Schwarzenegger or a Stallone impression. Excuse me. You can cut that out later.
Nope.
He does a Stallone impression, and I don't love it. I kind of wish he would just use his regular voice. And apparently, I mean, that's all, the direction he was given. So
Yeah.
he did it. I still love this movie, but that is one thing
But I think they do good here with introducing us to them, and then Sam is this outsider, and you instantly get this feeling like they're gonna, they do kind of play with him and pick on him a little bit for being this fish out of water, but he comes in and schools them on comic book stuff, which I think is great, and it's a great way
and this
to.
is a time when a lot of people didn't know comic books.
Right.
Important to remember. It was such a small. You didn't have a massive Comic Con every year. It
Right.
was, it was such a small underground kind of thing, really. So, yeah, for a kid to roll in and school somebody on their own organization is
Exactly. Don't
pretty
put the
legit. Get you some
Batmans
credit.
with these and get your Superman timelines right. Come
right.
on, bro.
And I'm guessing after watching this last night, I've noticed that they cut to the two old people leaning against the TV multiple times. More than I've ever noticed them do it before. And I'm guessing that's supposed to be the Frog Brothers' parents.
Yeah.
But-
Because it's their comic.
But they're literally laying in the same position every time you cut
Were
to them
those-
at that TV.
I thought those were like dummies or something. I didn't know those were
No,
actually supposed to be
people.
people.
I
Are those
think-
supposed?
I
I
think
thought they
there's-
were like decoration. or something.
No, I think they're people.
I think I
Dude, I gotta
completely
go back.
understand why you think that, though, because
They
don't
don't
move.
move.
they don't move at
speak.
all.
Now
That's
everybody
funny.
needs to go
Why
back
are they
and
called
watch
the
it.
Frog Brothers? Do we know?
That's
I
their
think
last name. Is
Their
Frog.
last name is Frog.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
In the credits, they were called. Was it Edgar?
Edgar and
Frog?
Allan Frog.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, fair enough.
And they get more into that in sequels to this movie.
Yeah.
But never mind. We're not talking about that.
Can we not talk about it?
It may come up later. So, but yeah, I love the comic book store stuff. It's a great setting. And then that gives us another lead into the next kill, which is the couple in the car. I love the way they set this up. And I love the way it's shot. Again, with the POV.
That red light.
Yeah.
That big red light. I mean, and they use that again. This is another scene that feels Raimi-ish to me. The sort of this sort of like very fast moving camera.
Yeah.
You know, like zoom, like almost like and it's kind of handheldy, like shaky.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels very kinetic and very just like as the roof rips off and you get that POV shot just like zooming in on them real quick.
Yeah.
Totally Evil Dead-ish.
Yeah, and I love that the whole roof of the car gets ripped off, and the reaction to it. The actress in that scene really reacts to it very well. Like I believe that she's scared to death.
I still believe.
He's here all week, folks.
Well, just so I'm not talking about Sam Raimi the whole time, I just also want to point out that when we get in this movie, the vampires sort of transform into a monstrous version of themselves, right?
Yeah.
Which I think was kind of a new thing for vampire movies as well. Like when they sort of vamp out, you know, as they say in this movie. But when they do that, you get this sort of like quick close up with the fan in their face and bright lights, and it reminds me of the Deadites. When you see the Deadites and they're just like pop up and just like, and they're just like right in the middle of the camera. You know, so like all that just felt so similar. And I was even online.
And the makeup, I mean, the makeup's a big part of it too, with the exaggerated cheekbones and around the eye sockets and stuff.
Yeah, like when Ash starts to go dead-eyed a little bit and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just so similar. I'm thinking this has to be, and I'm looking online, nobody's talking about it. I'm like, am I crazy? I don't know.
No, you're not. And I think the reason I hadn't thought of it very much is just because I haven't seen the Evil Dead movies as much as I have this one. This one was definitely more of a lead into my horror than the Evil Dead series.
Well, we need to get to Evil Dead 2 sooner than later.
Yeah.
This is still fresh on your mind.
Going to be a fun one to talk about.
I really love the look of them as vampires, though.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those sort of in between just the regular person, but with fangs now. And maybe different colored
just like
eyes.
Exaggerated features, like, sunken eyes, cheekbones.
It's somewhere between that and like full blown monster.
Yeah.
Right. And that first time you see Kiefer, is pretty scary. It's a good scare.
It's a great reveal.
Yeah.
The way they set that whole scene up, or that shot. So we end up leaving the comic book store and whatnot, and you see Star rides off with David and his crew of hooligans. And we go back to Grandpa's house for a brief moment, and he asks Sam if he wants to go into town with him.
Dude, that is one of the funniest things. That's why I love Grandpa, man.
Yeah. I love that whole exchange. Let's go to town. That's as close to town as I like to get. It's so funny. I still laugh out loud whenever I see that scene.
That car is sweet, though.
I think it's an old Ford Fairlane. I think so. Ooh. If you're a car person, man,
it's
with it.
Pretty.
I think it's a hardtop roof too.
But
so pretty.
But during all the stuff at the at the boardwalk, the concert at the boardwalk, we were also introduced to Max through Diane Weist's character.
She's looking for a
what's
job.
Her mom? What's their mom's name?
Her name is Lucy.
Lucy. Yeah. Okay.
Which is it's so weird that her name is Lucy. Think back, all the vampire. Lucy is such a used name in anything to do with Dracula, vampires. Lucy is a used name through any kind of vampiric type movie.
But like Jason brought up earlier, we're introduced to her through Max, and Max owns a video store. And did you guys notice that all the videos in there were in the hard shell cases and had the vintage VH, like just not the poster art. It was just like a still from the movie.
Right.
I love that aesthetic of the old VHS movies. Love it. So that's enough.
Yeah, they were like a template from the producer or something, right? So you'd have like a, same frame around every box.
And I love that you're seeing all this promotional art and stuff for other movies in the background.
Cardboard cutouts and trailers and all that great
National
stuff.
Lampoons is there. I seen that one.
That
now we have a red box.
The Kiss of the Spider Woman.
Yeah. And supposedly there's a poster on the wall of Once Bitten, Jim Carrey's vampire movie.
Was that even out then?
I guess so, because that's what
Maybe
they said. The poster is on the wall behind Max, and I missed it. I guess it's just a really quick thing.
That's funny.
I kept going back.
Maybe it was maybe it wasn't out then. Maybe it was just
I think
promo
it was.
material.
So I know Jason and I saw this a long time ago and probably don't recall what our first thoughts. I mean, but with you guys that saw it later, like what was your first response to them introducing Max and where they go with him in this? Like, did you have any idea that he was involved with this?
Not at all.
No, I think if you suspect him after the dinner scene, you kind of let your guard down on him, which is nice that they kind of tease him and then kind of eliminate him as a suspect, and then it turns out he actually is. I think that's a nice way to kind of play with it a little bit. Yeah. It's Jason, like he's the red herring and the guy.
Yeah. Jason, do you remember having you're that guy that always figures things out. So did you have him figured it out?
I can't remember as a kid, but as I remember seeing the movie, but it was one of the things I don't think I probably figured it out immediately as a child. It was just, you always thought there was something weird. It's like, well, okay, why are we seeing this guy? Why are we seeing him so much?
Yeah.
I know she's trying to date him, but we're really pushing this guy. And then the whole, like you said, the scene we'll get to later of the dinner and everything. And then, knowing vampire movies, I did think it was weird, which is a scene later about Thorn.
Yeah.
And it's daytime, and it's funny. Why wasn't he coming to the door? Why is this dog protecting him? So we'll get to that later. And I think that may have hinted me to something, but I really don't think right off the beginning that I thought, oh, well, this guy he's a vampire.
Yeah. I mean, as far as whodunits go, it's hard when you have a movie like this where there aren't that many characters, really.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the film's strengths that there aren't a lot of characters to get messy and stuff like that. Yeah. But I think it, this is not a mystery. This movie is not a mystery movie. It just has a little mystery in it.
Right. But I think at this point, coming going off of a first watch of this, I think at this point when they introduce us to Max and everything, we're still in that zone where we're not sure who it could be that's doing all this stuff.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he sees the gang and he tells them, "I told you not to come in here," which is a great double line, right?
Yeah.
But it does make you think like, oh, they're a pain in his butt too. They come into his store and mess around, and
they're just hoodlums on the boardwalk, kicking them off the carousel. Get out of my my little video store. Yep. So that's a good way to do it. They're kind of playing it off, but you think it's kind of weird because they're watching him talk to Lucy, and you watch it now and you're like, you kind of see that there's an interaction between them, and he's trying to play it off. So you're like, oh yeah. Now if I would have paid more attention when you're a kid, which back then you're just waiting for the vampires to show up. So you didn't really think about all the angles and the little eye movements and facial expressions. You're like, oh, but you see it now, you're like, oh yeah, he's definitely tied into them somehow.
So we go back to the boardwalk and Michael decides that he needs to be like these people that Star's hanging around with.
Michael's motivations here, I understand he's a teenager, or I don't know if he's supposed to be a teenager.
Yeah, he's supposed to be in high school.
I think he's like 18-ish, 17,
okay.
18.
And then, but I understand why he follows her. Of course, he's interested. They share a look or whatever. But he does not stop at any. He gets so many red flags along the way, and we don't really totally establish why he's so driven here. Because
I could tell you
it's to the point. Well, I like I said, it starts that way, but like she's literally at one point telling him not to do some of this stuff, and he's doing it anyway. And it's like, well, she's right there. Well, the focus starts to shift, and there are some people think, and I can see why anyway, that there are like some gay undertones to this movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a Joel Schumacher film. He is an openly gay director. So,
Oh, is he? I didn't even know that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, there's that. And, apparently there are a few reasons, and I'll just touch on them. The way the vampires dressed was very similar to the gay club underground style of the time, apparently. I don't know this because I was a child, but, you've got the Rob Lowe poster on the closet. The bath scene, I don't have a man. Song he's singing. The gang is not at all interested in Star.
Right.
They have her seemingly captive or something like that. They never pay much attention to her other than, using her to get Michael. Okay. There's some kind of weird sexual tension with David and Michael, I think. And I especially in the vampire den, okay, in the hotel or whatever that is, the sunken hotel, there is a giant painting or mural of Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And we get some good doors in this too, part of the great soundtrack. But so we get a montage, kind of a trippy montage when he drinks David's bodily fluids. And it's fading from Jason Patrick's face to Jim Morrison's face and back to and I just wonder, is David using Star to recruit Michael? David seems so focused on recruiting Michael.
Yeah.
And I wonder,
and I wrote this down in my
something
notes
there?
too, because I had a question. Jason, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, well, the whole thing about Michael tracking down Star, well, you think about it, what we've always known through all the vampire movies of the past and everything, because, I mean, Star, which you may learn, we learn later that she's not full-blown, but she is vampiric, that vampires put off this aura that draws people to them, like this, you're
Sure.
immediately just engulfed with this lust that you must have them.
So
And
that's
yeah.
what it was.
And
for
that's
me.
what I'm thinking it is falling around. But that's why they brought her in, is because now we have a female, the whole lost girls type thing, which that's another thing we can talk about later. But they're trying to they need someone to draw these young men in, either as food or as
Right.
recruitment into our army or whatever like that.
Yeah,
But
and
I think that's why his infatuation is, it's that vampiric aura that's drawing him into her.
that's
and
a
he
great
can't get
point,
away.
Jason.
He can't.
That's a
get
great
away.
point. And the vampire lawyer is all about sex.
Yeah.
It's all
Yes.
about lust
Mm-hmm.
and so we're sort of, we've got a lot of things going on here under the surface.
you
On the
guys are
top,
kinda-
you've got a fun 80s movie, but there's a lot kind of swirling around
Yeah.
underneath that is
And to be honest, you guys bringing that up
like
kind of
low subtext, like it's under there, not necessarily like some of the stuff is like, yeah, that's kind of this way, but I think he couldn't maybe push it as far as he wanted to, maybe because of the time or
yeah. I mean, you guys bringing that up kind of almost gives me an answer to, I was always like, Star is vampiric, and there was this exchange between them later that she says, David wanted you to be my first kill.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you make a good point that there's this shift. Like if he was interested in Star becoming a vampire and having Michael be the victim, why did they suddenly shift their look towards Jason Patrick's character, or towards Michael? Because I noticed that this time for like with a big red flag. It's like, wait a minute, Star is in the same boat, but won't. I don't know if it's that she won't kill or whatnot, but they want her to kill Michael at some point, but then they shift their interest to Michael.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes that gives good background to that, I think. Is she's
yeah,
just,
I mean, David is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
David, I'm losing track. David seems to me very focused on getting Michael,
yeah.
he says Michael 1,000 times. By the way, they say Michael over 100 times in this movie.
Yes,
Wow.
I was about
which
to
is
say
more
that,
than
yeah.
one a minute. But it seems like David's biggest motivation in this film is to get Michael in his gang.
One thing I did notice when he's courting Star and they're walking to the bikes and stuff, and they're asking, he asked her name and she says Star, and he says, "Oh, your folks too, huh?" And she has a reaction to him saying that. Very hard reaction. And I never really noticed this before, but they play up all this thing where the missing kids in town and there's missing posters everywhere. And I never caught that when Michael brings up her folks, she has this like look about, are you looking for me? Like she thinks that he might be like be connected to her parents trying to find her or something like that. Like it's very brief, but I did kind of see it differently this time.
Or maybe they're dead.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Well, changing the focus on this. All right, we're all into the sexualization of everything here. But who, as a young boy, did not want to go and have a dirt bike after that scene?
Oh God, absolutely.
When they're leaving the boardwalk and they're chasing each other.
I want to go buy a dirt bike right now.
Yeah, I watched it, earlier today again, and I'm like, I really want a dirt bike now. But as a kid, I mean, especially growing up out here in the woods, I wanted a dirt bike so bad, and their dirt bikes look fantastic. And it's like, and then you had Michael on his little bitty one. He's like, "There's no way I can, outrun you." And he said, "Well, just try to play keep up, And then they do the whole chicken thing, trying to see if he'll drive off the cliff. They were test. I think that's what was like a test too. Maybe David was trying to test him. Well, let's see how far this guy will go, or we'll chicken out, and then maybe if he's cool, we'll take him down
Jason
to the lair.
Patrick is no chicken. He will do anything you tell him to do. And again, maybe it's persuasion that they're able to use over him. But the dirt bikes are also cool because they're sort of modified and sort of skeletal. They almost feel like a gothic kind of skeletal mechanical, ride. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, and this is where I noticed some of the framing and the cinematography in this really stood out to me. Like
the bridge.
Not the bridge. I'm still the motorcycle scene.
We'll get there.
When at the end of the motorcycle scene where they kind of speed up the footage and they go towards, and then you end up with David and Michael racing each other essentially. But that shot when the camera pulls away and you just see the lights from the bikes fade out is a very like David Lynch looking pull away. Like I was thinking Eraserhead or something like that while that happened. And then the shots they set up after that with, still to this day, the way they shoot that when Michael falls off of his bike, they shoot it in an angle where I'm not sure where they are. They're on a bluff. I get that, but the angles are shot from the ground going up. So you're only seeing the dark sky. Again, this might be something that had to do with budget.
There's a lot of fog and smoke. Again, the atmosphere is, you can't see anything other than them and the smoke or the fog, or I guess it would be fog. But with spotlights, arguably the headlights of the other bikes or whatever, but you can't see anything other than the characters, and they can't see anything either, which is, it's perfect. It's great.
So,
and then we're getting to a scene. Is the first time that I ever knew what Chinese food was.
Jenny hates this
What?
scene.
Okay.
Hold on.
Yes.
You never heard of Chinese food until.
Well, dude, you think about it. This came out in 1987. I probably saw it like a year or so later. So I was probably like 10. But like I said, dude, I grew up in a small town here in Texas. It was hamburgers, steaks, and baked potatoes every day.
Yeah.
That's all you could eat around here. But I'm like, what are they eating? And then, of course, later with the exchange that happens in there, you're like, I don't know if I really want to eat Chinese food anymore.
Did it keep you from trying Chinese food?
No, I tried it. Probably, I bet you I didn't even really eat Chinese food until I moved over to Florida. So I was in my 20s before I ever ate Chinese food for the first time.
I think I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't recall having Chinese food that early. I think that was a fairly new thing on me too.
We had Chinese food when I was little. I remember.
I think I did too. Yeah.
But was it rice or was it maggots?
Look, I did not watch this scene. I hate bugs as food. Like
Temple of Doom, baby.
It's so gross. Like, and I don't know if it's just because, as I've said before, I have a really active imagination. Like, I'm pretty sure something like this is the reason that I didn't like spaghetti until I was like 13. Because I just thought about worms. Or somebody might have said something about spaghetti being worms at some point. It's disgusting.
That's interesting that you say that your imagination, because I can see that. I mean, if you're really imagining, it makes me think of when I was a kid, my mom was eating a bowl of Pops, Pops, the cereal, corn pops.
Yeah.
Are they corn pops?
Yeah.
Anyway, they're little, they're little yellow, kind of unusual shaped ball kind of things. And I remember saying, "Mom, those look like little eggs, like dinosaur eggs. What if they cracked open and there was like little bloody mucusy
Oh God.
dinosaur embryos coming out of there?" And she like had to pour it out because it just grossed her out so much. For me, I wouldn't bother me a bit. I'd be like,
Ruined
okay,
your mom's
these are
bowl of pops, bro.
these are corn pops, no problem. These are clearly not eggs.
Well,
but I can see how that could be a thing.
That does lead into, as many times as I've seen this movie, just seeing that scene for the shock value that it has of eating bugs, or the notion of eating bugs or worms or something like that. This time I really noticed how much this is really just a big cat and mouse game. They're fucking with him so that when it comes to him drinking the blood, he won't hesitate, because they've fucked with me twice already. This isn't going to be,
Right.
It's total manipulation.
Yeah.
I mean, this is an initiation process. This is hazing.
Yeah, and Star even tells him. She tells him straight up, it's blood, but he's not going to believe it now. He's like, yeah, right. Like the rice was maggots. Yeah, this is
right.
blood.
It's a gang initiation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I mean, they're setting up a lot of things, like with the scenes too, because like you said a little while ago, Jason, that the motorcycle scene starts with David saying, "How far are you willing to go?" And well, he's willing to go this far, and then they get him there, and then it's okay. Can you take a leap of faith? Which is the whole bridge scene. What that represents, like you have to take a leap of faith that what you're doing with us is something that you've got to believe in. Again, stuff I've never thought about.
But he doesn't even know what he's agreeing to.
Because
That's
he's so
why we
infatuated
have to
with
blame
Star.
Yeah.
But by this point, Star isn't even around. It's a pissing contest between him and David. He wants to prove to David that he's as badass as he is, or something.
Yeah.
But now that we're at the bridge, I love that shot. That long shot of the bridge is amazing, and that's a real bridge.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Santa Clarita, about a few hours away from there, or whatever. Incredible. The hanging from the bars, and then the thing goes over. Love
I think
the look
you'd
of
have
that
to be a vampire to hang on to that. Like, can you imagine the upper body strength that it would take not only to hang from those bars, but to hang from those bars while a train is going overhead?
The hard part's getting back up after you've been hanging there for.
I mean, but just the sheer force of the shaking.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to hold on.
Did you try this, Jason?
I said we're going to get to the Jason segment of the show. Did he try it? Yes, I did. Without a train. No train, but actually where I'm at now, there used to be a train track that ran through the whole county here. And close to where I'm at, there's actually a train trellis, they call it, the little bridge, because there's a creek there. Well, you could just walk down the train track, because after years went by, the train track was there, but no train. So you didn't worry about it. But we would go down there, and a lot of people would jump in the creek and play in the creek. We're like, and I'm thinking, hey, let's do the Lost Boy things and hang out here from everything. What, you hang there and you're like, I don't know if I could do this, because I mean, even as a kid, I mean, you're young, you got a little bit of muscles, but after you're hanging there for a little bit, no, you're going down in the creek. And I'm like, you imagine with a freight train, it bounces.
Okay,
as it goes over that.
Jason, God bless you.
Hey,
I'd
gotta stay entertained.
I'd like to introduce a new segment to the VHS files.
Did Jason
it's called
do it?
What Did Jason Try? So every time we do a show, I want everybody to take notes of what point in the movie they think Jason tried something from the movie. And then at the end, we'll have our segment, and we'll see if anybody guessed right.
I didn't have one for the last episode for Ghostbusters. I didn't try to, tame any ghosts or anything. I mean, we all acted like we did, but no, this one, when we got to that, I was thinking, oh, I get to do a Jason segment this week.
And if you haven't done it, you have to. So for any future episodes. If you haven't done it, then
But
you need
ours
to.
wasn't that high. I mean, literally, it was only like 8-10 feet down. I mean, not even that. After you're hanging down, it's even less feet. So
Nice.
I mean,
You
and
fall
I was probably like a
sizable
young,
water.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a creek like that. Yeah, so deep, but it wasn't nothing. I mean, you're a kid. Remember, we used to jump out of trees.
Sure.
But carrying on.
Some of y'all jumped out of trees.
Well, I love that after that he lets go and then he falls through this abyss, and the whole way they set that shot up where he falls on the bed and then magically it's 2:00 in the afternoon, and the way that whole thing is shot is really cool because it's basically almost all one shot of him falling on the bed, the door opening, the sun, all that stuff. But so now Michael's pre-vampire. And when Sam figures out that Michael is a vampire is one of the best things about this movie.
Yeah.
I actually pulled a clip.
Look at your reflection in the mirror. You're a creature of the night, Michael. Just like out of a comic book. You're a vampire, Michael. My own brother, a goddamn shit-sucking vampire. Oh, you wait till Mom finds out, buddy.
Sammy, wait.
A goddamn shit-sucking vampire.
My favorite is, "You're a creature of the night, Michael." He just says it so
So
matter-of-factly.
casually.
Yeah.
His innocence is really endearing in this
It
movie. Even though he seems older than the character he's playing, he does do quite well.
Yeah, but even before then, we get where Michael goes to the fridge to get some milk out, and it's like the hunger is hitting him.
Yeah.
After he's drank it there, and then of course we get, like you said, a Nook to the rescue. He's getting that urge to go up there and feed on his little brother, and a Nook saves the day.
Yep.
And then it also leads to the milk carton that, if anybody noticed that, the picture on the milk
lost
carton.
child. Yeah. The
Laddie.
little boy
Yeah.
in the Union jacket.
I think Jason Patrick plays this really well, though. Like he for sure pulls off, like he's struggling to not murder his brother at this moment.
Yeah, he's good in this for sure.
And even the whenever they find him at the bottom of the stairs and all of that, and I think all of that works really well. And I kind of I was watching when he starts flying, and that seems a little odd to me.
He's floating
at
he's not
this
even
point.
flying.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just like,
he's like he's just can't control his powers yet. It's like Spider-Man,
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is it
shooting
like
his webs?
Yeah, is it like Superman just started to float and then he figured out he could fly? But it seems weird because it's almost like he's being pulled out the window. So almost in a sense, I was like, is this like them trying to like pull him back to them or something? But I think it is
metaphorical because his brother decides to trust him and let him in.
Yeah.
And pull him back in. I think there's definitely, I don't know if he's literally being sucked back at them, but I feel like if he floats away, he's just going to be a vampire. His brother saves him.
It's so weird in all of this conversation we're having that I'm here like getting all this metaphorical stuff from this movie that I've never really thought about before. About them trying to pull him away from them, and Sam brings him back in, and it's
his brother.
Yeah,
that's the fun part about dissecting movies, man.
Yeah.
It's just like it's so fun to just really do a deep dive and just look at everything.
And you can kind of think of it, because like the movie The Lost Boys, it's actually talking, like the reason he went with that is the whole Peter Pan thing. The Lost Boys, never grow old, you'll never die. And remember, you think your happy thoughts or whatever, you can fly. And now Michael's floating out the window. So it's kind of ties it all, the whole Peter Pan thing in together a little with a vampire twist.
Yeah.
But
well, who else is like Peter Pan? The whole reason they're home alone is Grandpa is out delivering his latest taxidermy creation to this widow.
The widow Johnson.
And he's got some intentions that are more than just business minded.
He's a dirty old
man. What I mean.
Windex cologne.
I love the Windex aftershave.
The Windex aftershave. He gives it a sniff. Yeah, that works. And you know what? It's not that different. It's really not.
No.
Jenny, I hope he satisfied that nice lady.
I'm sure he did.
There you go, Jenny bringing up the sex segment again.
Jeez, Jenny.
I think Eric brought it up.
Well, speaking of sex, Michael goes back to the cave, finds Star, and this is where we're going to talk about how Cry Little Sister plays into this movie, okay?
Okay.
So, this is one of the sexiest scenes ever. And nothing happens. And the song makes it partly why. Like, the song works for this point in the movie.
Jenny, does Josh ask to play this song sometimes at home?
No, I do not.
Oh, it's
curious.
happening now. Josh is going to do it. Yep.
Maybe you should try it. I'm just throwing that out there.
So, but you know, it's the verses. It's the verses of the song as opposed to the chorus where you've got the choir singing. But I don't know. Like, you really don't like the song?
No.
Okay. Oh man, the music in this movie is such a big part of it that just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I don't like the choir. I think that's what
They
it is.
probably do use it a lot more than.
They use that. That's the most used part of the song.
Well, if you
in
think
the
about
movie.
it, there's not much of a quote unquote score to this movie. It's more or less the soundtrack that gets you through it with the music.
Yeah,
So-
there's a lot of music in it.
So, and you're used to hearing a traditional score to move everything along, where this time they relied on the songs more than the score. But that's why I think the songs are so good, is because they can act as the score along with a pop song.
Yeah, I mean, I had so many female friends like in the school that would just tell you about that. It's like, oh, I want to be with a guy like that, you know, that way. That whole shot in the movie of the music playing and everything, the little make out montage 80s style type thing they do there.
It feels like a music video.
Yeah, it's like a music
and I
video.
think I think that. Sorry, Jason.
No, you're. I'm just saying. It's just I've heard that from even nowadays. You get to talking to just a female friend or something about like movies like that, and they're like, "Oh, I'll tell you what got me when I was younger was that whole makeout scene in Lost Boys right there." Because some of them now talk about the whole or sparkly vampire thing, but how that is. But that was the original vampire makeout
the
scene
original sexy
right there.
teenage vampires.
Exactly.
Jenny noticed something about.
Yeah, you want to go there now? I mean,
Oh
if
no,
we'll
no,
jump
because
ahead.
it's in my notes
I know what you're talking
too.
about.
It's in my
All right.
notes too.
We'll get there.
Okay.
What do you
So-
guys think of the look of the hideout?
I love it.
I really like it. Yeah.
It's very Goonies.
It is, right? Especially when the kids go down there,
Oh yeah.
to try to hunt them. Where are we at chronologically? Sorry.
Oh no, we were after the makeout scene, and the mom is going to go and apologize to Max
Oh, right.
because they've had two things ruined. So
That's right. She calls and interrupts his.
yeah,
their
remember,
date.
like Michael's
so
trying to
we
kill
s-
me, blah blah blah. She had to leave the restaurant, just totally drove out on Max, didn't even say bye.
I think we've
'Cause she's a good mom.
completely skipped over the dinner scene.
No, that's coming up.
No, that's coming up. That's the
Okay.
dinner where they
That's
go
that's
out
basically
to
right
dinner.
where we're at.
Yeah, we're getting. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is where Michael meets Max coming over for dinner.
Yeah. And this is very smart, and this is definitely the first time I'd ever heard this about. Well, no, there's one thing I want to get to right before the dinner scene, and it's when Sam goes to the Frog Brothers. And he's like, my brother's a vampire. I'm going to pull the clip for this as well.
Started chasing my mom like the hounds of hell and vampires everywhere.
We've been aware of some very serious vampire activity in this town for a long time.
Santa Carla's become a haven for the undead.
As a matter of fact, we're almost certain that ghouls and werewolves occupy high positions at City Hall.
Kill your brother. You'll feel better.
And if you listen to the clip, they're talking about vampire activity in Santa Carla, and I love that one of them says, we even have good reason to believe that there are ghouls and werewolves and high standards in City Hall. It's so good.
Yeah.
They're so serious. They
are
play it
so
so
serious.
straight the whole time,
Yeah.
Yep.
and that's why it works. But I love that whole exchange. This is, you kill your brother, you'll feel better. It's like, it's that simple, just to kill my
your
brother. Which some kids at that age are probably like, yeah, if I did, I probably could kill my brother in my
I
life.
would love to
would be
kill
easier.
my older brother. I mean, my little brother probably thought that all the time. I'm like, I kill my older brother.
But then we
Yeah,
go to but then we got the dinner scene, and I love that they bring in the inviting a vampire into your house thing, which we don't really know.
You don't know that
yet, but it's such a great thing on Max's. It's such a tricky thing because Michael doesn't know at this point how that works. So I think that is really good.
Yeah.
The
And
way they
as
pull that in there works really well.
And as of watching it now, as you got older, I mean, like, as not being a kid and you start paying attention to things, I mean, he's sitting there talking. You notice he's not even trying to break the threshold to get in the house. And he says, well, since you're the man of the house, I'm not coming in unless you invite me, type thing. And you're like, oh, geez, right in our faces. Why did we not see this? Like, come on. Everybody knows you got to invite a vampire in your house. They can't come in.
We do now. I wouldn't have. Yeah, I certainly wouldn't have as a kid watching this.
But, yeah, I was just like, oh, man, just right in our faces. But, yeah. Up until that point, though, back then, we had no clue. We're just thinking he's just some goofy guy at a video store trying to hit up on mom.
That dinner scene is great. And again, the way they play that into not just what we're seeing as the movie going by, but the underlying mom trying to get into a new relationship style of things. Maybe the kid's a little
bratty
and or isn't cool with this. And,
well, you're not my dad action.
Yeah. Which is a great way to dress up what's going on there when that's literally, it is the case, but it's got underlying motives behind it too.
Yeah. Now this one part of this dinner thing that I know me and Jenny have in common for our love of Parmesan cheese. That is the thickest, chunkiest Parmesan cheese I'd ever seen on spaghetti. When he's spooning it out, I was like, "That's not Parmesan cheese. That is totally garlic."
You could
garlic does not look like Parmesan.
Garlic
cheese.
does not look like that at all.
No way.
Yeah,
I have a hard time believing that was garlic. To be honest with you, I don't know what it was. It looks like oatmeal almost, but it's not. It's not garlic, and it's not Parmesan
That's why
cheese.
it didn't work.
and to mine and Jenny's standards, that still wasn't enough Parmesan cheese on his spaghetti. He needed way more than that. We go through a can.
It's another good cat and mouse steer you in a different direction sort of things, because even us as the viewers at that point are like, okay, Max definitely isn't involved with this. And I think that's
as a viewer, you pretty much rule him out after that. You go, okay, it was there to, and let's see what the real deal is.
Right.
But did you notice when Max leaves after the whole water incident and nothing works? Did you watch Grandpa as he walks by?
Oh yeah,
he's
Grandpa
like
gives
eyeballing
a few
him
glances
like
throughout
hard,
the
like I think he thinks something's up.
But from here we go to the bonfire scene, which is one of the best scenes in the movie.
Oh yes.
This entire setup, I don't know what. Well, I mean, he's looking for Star, but I don't know what he's entirely. Michael's motives are with going to David. Maybe he's starting to get that itch. I don't know, but where they take him from there, and the initiation's over, time to join the club. The way they set all that up, the tree not being very tall, just kind of ground level, and then them again swooping in the POV perspective, and you still don't see them fly in, but you start seeing them tear these guys apart. And
it would look dumb if you saw them fly in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is the moment in the tree. I mean, I don't know how y'all were the first time you see it, because we really haven't seen vampires in our face in this movie yet, like that. And that shadow of David talking, and all you see is his spiked mullet going, which he has a killer mullet in this movie, by the way.
It's amazing. It's
amazing. A couple of the other guys in the gang do too. But you see, all you see is just that dark shadow, and the use of lighting right here when he says, the initiation's over, it's time to join the club. He just comes out of that shadow. I mean, I can tell you as a kid, I pulled back about 2 or 3 feet.
Yeah,
he is intense in in Kiefer is legitimately, I think, scary in this movie at times, and he has this weird intensity that.
So there's another thing Jenny doesn't like about this movie.
Oh no.
I don't. You're going back to vampires and lust and all this. None of these guys are attractive in this movie. Like none of the vampire guys.
No,
Kiefer Sutherland,
a couple of those
Kiefer Sutherland
vampire
who
guys.
is a good-looking guy, does not look good in this movie. His mullet is stringy. His peach fuzz or whatever, it's not any type of established facial hair. He looks like shit, like he's been on a 3-day bender the entire movie. And if he was trying to draw me in, I'd be like, peace out, bud.
I can certainly see that, Jenny. I have 2 questions for you. One, the not Alex Winters, but the other 2 guys, those were, I think, male models. That not really actors. I want to say that I read that
didn't do
somewhere.
it for me.
You didn't like those guys? And then what about Jason Patrick? I mean, he is hunky as heck in this movie, right?
He's all right. I'm talking about the vampires specifically. Like,
Well, he arguably is.
becomes one, yes. And he's okay. We'll get to this later. But anyway, yeah, I just don't go for it.
Hey, that's all right.
And Alex Winter's
They're gay
mullet
anyway.
is ridiculous.
Alex Winter's mullet is something of legend with the curls.
Yeah.
His whole look in this
dude.
movie, his costume, yeah, he is.
Yeah, that bike, that leather jacket he's wearing with all the colors on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's something else.
That kind of leads to what Eric had mentioned earlier in the discussion about
What are you talking about?
His frilly
Costuming.
his costuming and his frilly jacket were little undertones
Yeah.
to these things, and I was just like, I could totally see that now that Eric.
Excellent dressers.
But I
Very
was
much. They look great.
I was a little shocked watching it this time, just to how gory the bonfire kills get. I mean,
It
they're
does get gory. Yeah.
literally
it's
ripping
awesome.
chunks of skin off people, but I love how Michael finally knows for sure what's going on, and just Jason Patrick plays it well. I mean, he looks like he's genuinely like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
And he is not about it.
Not about it at all.
He's fighting it.
So I think from here, right, Michael goes home and like
This is when Star shows up.
yeah. And she shows up and like he's genuinely freaked out. And he's afraid for himself and his family.
And she
He's
should
afraid
be
for
like, bitch, I
Star.
told you not to drink that damn wine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bitch slap.
But
So what exactly were her intentions? Are you going there with that, with this?
no.
Of why she showed up, or
Yeah, like was she asking Michael to help her and Laddie, as in like
we're like you.
give them victims, or to help them get out?
To get out.
I think it was trying.
I feel
They
like
kept
they
saying
want
something
out.
about we're like you. You know.
Yeah.
Me and Laddie are, because they hadn't made. Because she explains that Michael was supposed to be her kill that night in the cave, and she didn't do it.
Well, that's
Because
why I'm wondering why Michael responds the way he does, because he just laughs it off. Like, I feel like he thinks that's what she's asking, is to supply them with food because
I think
they're getting weak.
I think he is blaming her for him being in that situation, which is
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
But I think, maybe she's been sort of manipulated into doing that because she cares about this kid, you know? So, they use the kid to get her, they use her to get him, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I don't even know the order. Yeah, I don't know who came first, Star or Laddie.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Well, I mean, Laddie's got that missing thing out, so I mean, I think we're
Yeah.
to assume that he's pretty fresh.
I wondered if Laddie was like really old from the Civil War or something.
I love
He's
that
got that
jacket.
Civil War jacket on.
Dude,
Yeah.
I love that jacket.
I thought he was like maybe a couple hundred years old or something, but
He was on the back of the milk carton. So
yeah.
He
All right.
was.
But I love when they're having their conversation and Sam is chiming in while they're talking and he's wrapped up under the blanket. It's so, it's so 13-year-old reaction to what's
Yeah.
going on.
Right.
But I love it. He's like, I got connections. He
Yeah.
calls the Frog Brothers.
And then
But they
go-
swoop in like Rambo and G.I. Joes. Their outfits when they decide that they're going to go vampire hunting are amazing. I love it.
They're gearing up like a
Yeah.
couple of kids would gear up
Yeah.
if they were going to go hunt some vampires.
Yeah.
It's just stuff around the house, like
I mean, who didn't dress like that as a kid?
I remember gearing up.
I did.
Just totally.
I always would love, Mom, I need some new camo pants. It wasn't because I was going hunting. I just wanted to be like the people on TV.
So they show up, they're gonna go after the vampires. And they borrow Grandpa's car, and I tell you, Corey Haim in the '80s loves to steal classic cars.
Yes, indeed.
But they get there, and could they be any louder? Like they
Yeah,
are
they're incredibly
just
loud.
storming
Yeah,
in.
no element of surprise.
No, not at
We're
all.
here.
We're here. We're gonna go this way. We're gonna go that way, and geez.
Even when they actually get in the temple and they're looking for them, they're screaming over one another.
Yeah.
It's like, I understand you're creatures of the night, but how are you sleeping through this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
good
a
thing they're heavy
coma.
sleepers for sure.
Nocturnal bats.
And this all has a very
with
Goonies
ugly
vibe when
ass
they're-
toes.
Well, and
Oh,
you
and they-
actually you get a little bit of a change of the regular everyday vampire movie because it was always coffins,
Yeah.
velvet lined coffins, the real Victorian type thing, Romania, all that kind of stuff. No, you're in a cave and we're hanging from a piece of pipe with bat toes.
I love that they're hanging and
Yeah, it's
sleeping
cool.
like that. It's such
When
a
they-
so fresh on what you're used to seeing in a vampire movie.
because they
And
changed.
it's a great surprise too. You know,
This movie changed the vampire genre after it. You look at all the other movies made after it that have meant they
definitely. I mean,
changed.
Joss Whedon even says that this movie influenced the Buffy series, and of course,
you
You
can
can
see
see
it.
inspired the
You-
Buffy movie, but also, yeah, the idea of the two looks for the vampires, the normal human look and then the kind of monstrous look. And I guess apparently, that I didn't watch Buffy, but the Spike character with the blonde
the
hair
blonde hair.
A lot like
was
David.
kind of a bit of an homage to Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
So
There you
direct ties, definitely.
So they stake
And
Alex.
Jenny, I think this is your time.
No,
Yeah.
we got to stake Alex, aka
Yeah.
Bill from Bill and Ted.
Yeah, they stake him. He's gushing blood everywhere. Wakes everybody else up. Everybody's screaming.
You're dead meat.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good dude. That voice when he yells that, "You're
Yeah.
dead meat." You're like, whoa. Okay, I'm out. I'm totally
But
out.
they do get out, and if you pay attention, you'll notice that the Frog Brothers are a little sparkly when they have come out into the sun because the vampire's blood was sparkly. Now,
Sparkly glitter blood.
I feel like Twilight might have stolen something from this movie.
Maybe a
Sparkly
few
vampires.
things. Maybe a few things. Mm-hmm.
But before that part where they're crawling out of the tunnel, and
Yeah.
David is grabbing Sam by the foot. Okay, this is the part I have about this now as an old, because we break down movies like that's not real. They ripped the top of a car off. Okay, but yeah, he has a small boy's foot and can't just pull him out of his buddy's hands to pull
He
him
was
into
asleep.
He
Too
was
much
still on-
sunlight.
He had just woken up from his
I just woke up.
slumber.
I haven't had my human coffee this morning,
Right.
or this night, But that whole part where the sun hits his hand and that little zoom into David's face and you see the little tear.
I mean, think about it,
Yeah.
Jason. If you rolled out of bed at 6 o'clock in the morning, do you think you could go build a workbench? No. You got to wake up. You got to get your mind going. You got to get your physicality going.
Coffee, couple
You
Diet
can't-
Dr. Peppers.
You can't just rip a young boy's thigh off when you
That's
first
what I'm
wake up in
saying.
the
I'm
morning.
like, we can rip the top of that car off, but they can't even just grab the boy by the, not even ripping his leg off, just pull him out of his buddy's arms, because they're little kids too. Just like, hey, come here, and throw him all the way across the cave, But
That's fair.
But that whole tear thing, I thought that was, like, hey, vampires feel too. They have feelings. But then when I was doing some research for this, I thought maybe it linked to that scene is that the contacts they use,
We're
they
burning
said
his eyes.
they said they
Yeah.
were so painful for everybody they could only leave them in for seconds. Then I was like, maybe that's what it was. Is he had them in too long and they zoomed in and tear going, get these fucking contacts out of my eyes.
Yeah.
So, but vampires have feelings too. They can be hurt and they have tears.
Yeah, it shows that he's not indestructible.
Exactly.
So I love when the Frog Brothers come out and they're all flustered. Like the dialogue between the brothers is so funny. He's like, they pulled a mind scramble on us, so they opened our eyes in time. Like he pulls that shit off. It cracks me
That
up.
part's great.
They're so serious and it's so great. But I love that there's like, we don't ride with vampires. Bitch, you rode over here with a vampire.
They got there.
Yeah, how did they get there? I didn't see their bikes laying around.
Yeah. So,
And then he
So now
almost
we-
drives off the cliff.
burn rubber does not mean warp speed. So they got to go to Plan B, and I love that this is 80s montage heaven right here. And
This is A-Team. This is you know,
Any movie in the 80s, if there was something you got to get ready.
Yeah, it's very Home Alone, really, but that comes
Yeah,
later.
right.
So.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
They lie to the grandpa to get him out of the house. Tell him the widow Johnson wants second round. You know, got a taste of something she liked.
Yeah.
Totally playing on. I mean, I feel bad for Grandpa. He gets over there, he ain't getting any. She's like, "What the hell are you doing here?"
Maybe he did.
Well, maybe he did. He if he's used some more Windex, you know, aftershave, you know,
She loves that Windex.
It
Ladies love
has the
that
same
Windex.
effect tequila does. Makes your clothes fall off.
Tequila.
So
they
take a brown
go.
cow.
They set up Grandpa's house for Home Alone style, as Eric just referenced, and the house is the best scene, the best creepy feeling aura place to have this final battle scene, and this is when we first see them the vampires actually fly for the first time, and you can tell why they were reserved on that. I mean, I think they knew it was kind of like the shark in Jaws. Like, if you don't see it, it's more effective because when you do see it, it's not that
one
great.
shot is
Yeah. I also heard that it was because of budget.
Yeah.
Trying to make them look like they're flying was going to be costly. But like you said, it's like any horror movies. Like we've talked about this and other things like Halloween and stuff. It's the stuff you don't see that makes it scarier.
Definitely.
But I think it was smart of them to hold it off till the end and then use,
just for that little bit.
Just let it go there, and it's pretty effective here. I was always a little confused at how the one vampire flies in through the bottom of the fireplace. Did you notice that?
Well,
yeah, he comes in right through the wall.
Down.
No, he come through the wall.
Well, how do
He didn't go
any of
through
them come
He's
in
not Santa Claus.
without an invitation?
No. And I thought about that too, but there's a back door out of that one, because you just render a vampire powerless if you don't invite them in. Doesn't mean they can't come into your house.
They don't seem
Right, but they're not powerless when they come in.
They weren't invited in.
That's what we're saying.
No.
That's what you're
That's what
saying.
I'm saying. You said
You said if you don't invite them, they're powerless, and they didn't
maybe,
invite them.
Maybe it's
but they
because
were-
Michael was already a vampire and now that's broken.
he was
Maybe
in-
there were
And they're
three
not the
different
head vampires. They're the soldier
No.
vampires.
Listen to me, okay? They didn't invite David and his goons in. Therefore, David and his goons are not powerless. It's if you invite them in your house, it renders you powerless against them. So, like, if they would have invited David and the group into the house, they couldn't have killed him, or they wouldn't have.
I
Like,
see what you're
that's where they're going with this.
That's why it didn't work on Max.
On this segment where Jenny gets confused.
I'm also confused, Jenny. Don't.
And now daggers are flying out her eyes, plotting the death of her husband.
But do you get that now? Like,
I get what you're saying, Josh.
Josh,
I
you're saying
thought-
that's why Max, the tricks don't work on Max because they invite him in. So
Right.
those things aren't working on him.
right.
I see what you're saying. It's the opposite of what I thought.
And I'm not trying to pick on you. It's because I thought the same thing. Like, that was a thought that went through my mind when this started going down. It was like, wait, how are they coming in the house? They weren't invited. But if you get down to the nitty gritty of it, they only render the people against them powerless if they invite them in. So they can still come in the house. It just means that that's an open invitation that they can kill them. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's
Well,
a little.
First they have to run and save Nanook because Nanook is.
Yeah, you better get your ass out there and save your dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
You
dog.
better. And it's a good thing they did.
My God.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, again, he saves the day. But I found that a little odd too, because Sam loves this dog. You can tell throughout the movie he loves this dog.
Oh, God.
Why did
Pretty
he
young
even
kid
have
loves
Nook tied up outside?
Yeah, why is she outside?
Nanook should have
They
been
had to take him out
your
because
first
of the vampire.
priority.
Remember,
Oh,
they
yeah,
had to take him
that's
outside
right.
because Star and Laddie were there. They said you
Okay.
got to take him outside because he was trying to kill
Nice. I love when we find answers on things.
Your
Well,
dog knows
therefore, Eric, just
your
for
dog
you.
knows a flesh eater when he smells it. So,
you. Now we
but
leave
the
it to
vampires
finale.
are in, and I love the blonde guy who traces the Frog Brothers in the bathtub scene. That's all great. But I love after they kill him. I don't remember which brother it is. But they're like,
they don't kill him. First of all,
or well,
Yeah,
true.
a Nook.
Nanook helped a little. But what do they say? I wrote it down. We trashed the one that looks like Twisted Sister.
And there's some great effects in that bathtub as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
All these scenes are all these death scenes in this part are so well done.
Death by stereo.
Whoa,
by
man,
stereo.
you're getting ahead.
He exploded.
Mm-hmm. I like how every vampire has a different death, and they say that, right? Like you're going to get a different experience with each one, and that's so fun to just go. Yeah, instead of the same thing happening, we don't know what's going to happen. Every time you kill one, maybe this will happen. Maybe they'll explode. Maybe you don't know.
I just love how after they kill the first one, he haunts the plumbing through the whole rest of the house, and you can see Michael and them looking in the kitchen when the opening doors in the kitchen, and you just see everything flying everywhere,
all the blood out of the drains.
Yeah, it's just like, man, that house plumbing's totally destroyed. One
Very
vampire.
it.
I love when Laddie comes tearing up out of the bed and runs away.
Attack of Eddie Munster.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
The attack of Eddie Munster.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Which is interesting because, Laddie's not a full vampire, yet he changes.
Yeah.
And so does Michael later. Jamie Gertz is the only one who doesn't get ugly.
Yeah. Yes.
In this movie. They're like, no, we need her to be pretty.
Yep.
You can't do that.
Don't mess up Josh's thing there.
Since Kiefer Sutherland wasn't very pretty, they had to
He
keep
wasn't.
somebody pretty in it.
Yeah. And, speaking of Kiefer Sutherland, Michael prevails in the end, stakes him on some antelope horns. He dies like he is having an orgasm.
Well, we don't know how long he's been alive. Maybe was ready to let go.
Yeah, maybe.
Well,
Maybe.
Michael does penetrate him.
Yeah, he was.
There's that underlying stuff.
Sorry,
again.
guys.
But I don't know if y'all notice, like, even when they're in the house, even throughout the movie and throughout this whole thing, if you look behind a lot of people, there's a set of horns everywhere. Even because not only that, Grandpa does taxidermy, but I think that kind of led you to see how somebody was going to die. Like
Definitely.
a little foreshadowing.
I mean,
horns.
Your environment is surrounded with spikes, and you're a bunch of vampires.
Yeah.
It's definitely a nice setup and payoff there.
But that's a good little fight scene, even before he stakes him on the antelope horns.
I like when David flies at him so fast and punches him in the face, and then is across the room. I want to do that. I want to fly at somebody, punch him in the face, and get on the other side of the room before they can even blink.
But they reserve the flying for this part, and as bad as the insert shots look, I like that they kind of give us a little bit of a battle flying
I don't
around
think it
like
looks
this.
bad. It doesn't bother me.
And even when they have to go to the shots that aren't inserts, you can tell they're probably on a cart or something moving, and it's supposed to look like they're flying. I think they do really well with shooting that.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah, it all looks pretty natural,
I do
I
have a
think.
question for Jenny. Now, after he dies, he goes all pretty boy. If you notice that he's clean shaven,
He looks
baby
much
face-
better dead.
Baby face. Okay, so you like dead David over.
Well, I
Or
think that's
undead
nice
David.
when we get that, because you're reminded that he was a person,
Yeah.
and Max does care for these kids in his own twisted
Yeah,
way.
when he finally
they're
shows
a
up.
family as well. That he's a single dad with 4 boys, and he's looking for a mom for them. He's, it's a decent villain with proper motivations. You know what I mean?
You totally see it in his face when he goes and he sees David, even though we still really haven't figured out if you've seen it. But the way he's looking at him, you just see I just lost a child.
Yeah, he cares about him for sure. And we get more red lights here. I just want to point out the red
Oh
lights.
yeah, lots of red light.
I love the red lights. Love the red lights.
And honestly, when Michael vamps out, he looks pretty fucking freaky.
He's the ugliest one of all of them. Whereas I would say out of the vampires, Jason Patrick is the most attractive. He is the ugliest transformed vampire. There's something extra about the prosthesis and the makeup
I mean,
that
he
they
is
do
the
for
lead,
him.
you know? You gotta
it's
really
just,
make him...
He's just extra oogly.
But I thought it was kind of smart too to make us think that they took Max out of the picture in the running for the head vampire stuff, and then at the end you're like, okay, somebody's still, they're still vampires, so somebody is still around. And they almost set it up like maybe Max could come along and save the day at the end. But then like this is probably one of the first times where I was a little taken aback by the twist that something happened that I didn't see coming. And when Edward Herrmann changes and he does that, but I haven't changed my mind about that. And he sticks his tongue out.
Yeah.
Don't get me started about that. That's another segment.
He's recruiting her to be mother of vampires.
Yeah.
Well, he wanted her boys, his boys.
But I love that they've dressed all of this up so well that Lucy is like, has everyone gone crazy? What's the matter with all of you?
Yeah, she's trying to catch up.
And then Grandpa comes in and saves the day. Now, this is where I have to bring up the question, like, how the hell did Grandpa know? And Jason, you alluded to this earlier, that he was scoping Max out in the house. But what is it that possessed Grandpa? I'm going to back my truck up real fast into the doors of my house because there's a vampire there. Like, that's the one thing that never really sat well with me, is how the fuck did Grandpa know?
Well, that's the thing. We don't know, because if we had camera shot, maybe he walked up to the house and saw what was going on. Then he said, hey, I got all these spikes I just made for my fence. And I know from living here that the only way to kill a vampire is to put a stake through them. So therefore, I'm going to shoot stakes into my house. And hopefully I hit one or two.
I mean, I guess that's definitely plausible.
Well, those stakes, I mean, if you noticed earlier, he was making a fence.
With the points up.
Yeah.
So I think he knew, like I said, Grandpa knew more than what we thought.
Well, that's where we get our closing line of this movie, and I think it's a great line that they close on.
One thing about living in Santa Carla I never could stomach. All the damn vampires.
I love this ending.
It doesn't go anywhere else from there. It's just, that's the end of our movie, ladies and gentlemen. And I think that's the best way you could have ended it.
Yeah, and the look on their faces is just a nice little comedic punch right at the end, and leaves you with a smile on your face. And
when you go back and think about all the things that Grandpa had
drops.
said throughout the movie, I love that cover of People Are Strange by Echo and the Bunnymen. It's really good. That's Lost Boys in a nutshell. I mean, is it worth a rental?
Absolutely.
Jason, worth a rental?
Always a rental, all the time.
Eric, worth a rental?
Definitely. Great movie.
Didn't you have to rent it to watch it?
Worth a rental, and I did rent it, yes.
There you go. Keeping it real, man. He takes his job seriously, folks.
That's right.
All right. It's time for Almost Famous.
Almost Famous.
I know that, dude.
I don't know them. Haven't you ever heard of that guy? What's his name?
That one with that guy who was in that movie that was out last year.
So we got a long list of people here. We got Kiefer Sutherland. Everybody in this movie was relatively unknowns at this time. A couple of people had done some movies. I think Jason Patrick had done some theater and whatnot and was in a couple of movies. But you've got Kiefer Sutherland, Jason Patrick, Corey Haim. This is really kind of his first movie per se. Corey Feldman.
Alex Winter.
Alex Winter.
Actually, Corey Haim was in Silver Bullet first.
Ah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. So,
which I think is one of the things that's great about this movie, and with a lot of other movies in the 80s, is you actually have young people playing young people.
Yeah.
Like, whereas maybe they are slightly older than their characters, they're still young. Like, Jamie Gertz is young in this movie. I don't know how old she was, but she's got a baby face.
Yeah, and so does Kiefer.
Yep.
We're definitely better here than we were in Teen Wolf.
Yes.
Yeah, with the 20 and nearly 30-year-olds playing high school kids.
Yeah, but I mean, I have two that I think would kind of hold the Almost Famous position in this one, and we can go back and forth. But I mean, I would say Jason Patrick or Alex Winter I mean, I
agree with the Jason Patrick.
I mean, Alex Winter is definitely a contender for that spot in this, but he did go on to do Bill and Ted. And I think when you see him, you would know him from Bill and Ted. Whereas Jason Patrick, even though he's the lead in this and went on to do a few other things that weren't so good, like I think he's maintained the almost famous status out of everybody.
The only other big movie I remember him doing after this was Speed 2. I know he's in other movies, but I remember him from Speed 2.
Control.
Which was a terrible movie.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Right.
But that's
Isn't
really
there like Narcs or something.
I don't know. And I know he did Solar. He did Solar Babies before this with Jamie Gertz.
Yeah.
And that's how Jamie Gertz got the role, was because of that. But that's really all I know. Yeah, so I would go Almost Famous that.
Honestly, you could go Jamie Gertz as well. I didn't even consider that. I mean,
true. Yeah.
I don't know. I think Jamie Gertz has been in more things.
I mean,
I think
if you said Jamie Gertz, the first thing people might go to would be like Twister at this point. So I mean, you would know her from something. Jason Patrick, I don't think you have that luxury with.
I feel like me personally, I knew who Jason Patrick was. I didn't know who Jamie Gertz was. If you asked me who is Jamie Gertz, I wouldn't have said, "Oh, she's the girl from XYZ."
Oh, well, there you go.
Okay.
But that's just me, and I'm weird that way, I guess.
All right.
It's okay because we know why you watched Lost Boys. It was the saxophone guy. I mean, you didn't care about Jamie Gertz.
I forgot anyone else was in this movie.
Yeah, it's like
those purple spandex pants with the chains.
Because Eric still believes every day that Tom Capello's going to come over and say hello.
So this is Friday Night Fright Fest October. So I mean, we're talking horror movies. So it's going to bring back a segment from the last one that we just introduced, Top Kills.
Top Kills.
Murder, death, kill, murder, death.
How sweet. Fresh meat.
Who wants to start with Top Kills tonight?
I want to start. Mine is the Death by Stereo.
It's a great one.
Full on
I knew that.
explodes. It's such a great after the kill line.
Yeah,
absolutely
amazing.
It's funny. We just watched this YouTube video about best lines before someone dies or after someone dies on YouTube, and that wasn't on there.
Nope.
That's a travesty.
We should write a comment.
That list is void in my mind because that's one of the best ever.
And there's a deleted scene that kind of plays more into that too. There's a deleted scene where Sam's hooking up the stereo, and if you watch when they do that scene, they do a quick cut to the back where there's all these plugs and this one multiple plug juncture.
Oh, I didn't notice.
In the deleted scene, he's setting up the stereo and it's sparking like that because he's plugged so much stuff into it. So it kind of leads into that.
National
Nice.
Lampoon's
Yeah.
style.
So trying to hook up the Christmas lights.
Jason, what's your top kill?
Mine for this one is going to be the whole bonfire scene of when they swoop down to eat the people at the bonfire, and that whole the one that sticks out to me of the bonfire though is when David takes a bite out of that guy's skull.
Yeah.
And
He
you're
bites
just
his head.
I mean, just and you're like, whoa! And then of course they're ripping people apart and then throwing all the bodies in the fire.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty brutal for just a little vampire movie that's not some mass serial killer. So I would
they
say,
laid waste to that.
I say
whole
that's
party.
my favorite top kill.
Eric, how about you?
I'm gonna go with the bathtub kill. Nanook to the rescue again.
Yep.
A valuable member of the cast, and just some great effects. I love the concept of a bathtub full of holy water.
Yeah.
And the double scare. You get a double scare out of it where he comes out the second time. So yeah, lots of mileage on that one. That's my favorite.
And I love you touched on the holy water thing. I love that they have it in their squirt guns, and that becomes so effective on defending themselves against them. My top kill would be, in particular, you brought up the bonfire scene, but in particular, mine is David biting that dude's head, because the way he just chomps down, and then you have that spray of blood that's like you would have just bitten into a fresh apple, and that little mist would come off. Like I thought that kill was so creative, so that's definitely my top kill. Also,
Pressurized blood is always great.
Yeah. But there's a lot of good death scenes in this for sure. So and again, I was very surprised at how gory some of them do get.
Yeah.
And all the effects really hold up. Like,
yeah,
all the practical stuff looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
The makeup work and the blood and gore and stuff.
I think that all of that hold up today. Maybe the flying scenes not as much, but the rest of the movie,
yeah,
great.
All right, good, the bad, and the ugly.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Go, Eric. Jenny went first last time. Go, Eric.
Okay, good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, I'm going to say the family dynamic. The mom and the boys. I think that is the heart of this movie, and is why you care about the characters. And you're just on their side immediately. As soon as you meet them, you can tell that they've been through some stuff together, and they're still going through some stuff together, and they're trying to start fresh, and you're rooting for them. So that's my good. Bad is going to have to be Corey Feldman's voice. It just bugs me. I just wish you can play that role straight without doing a voice.
What
just
planet
doesn't
are you
feel natural,
from? Krypton?
and it bothers me. Ugly. I'm gonna say the bizarre age stuff with Corey Haim, just weirdly acting younger than he is. It's just a weird. I can't think of another example of a film where that happens, where you're like, why is this person acting like a young child? So that's my ugly.
All right. Who wants to go next? Jason?
I'll go.
Okay.
See, my good. I'm going to go for a twofer on this one.
Cheater.
The soundtrack, even though Jenny totally disagrees.
Love it.
And the cast, because even Joel Schumacher even said he thought he had the best cast of like any movie.
It is a great cast.
The people, all the people in this movie are fantastic at what they do, as far as just their star power or what a lot of them went on to do. But yeah, of the two though, soundtrack. Sorry, Jenny, but I feel that's gonna be her ugly. But bad for me is Max as a vampire.
Ooh,
that is horrible. You like, but she'll change my mind. That right there, I was like, that still gets me to this day. I mean, even as a kid, I think I laughed. Like, this movie's been kind of creepy and scary with a few little bitty comedy bits, there.
Yeah.
But him and his overall look, his makeup, I think, is the worst out of all the vampires. He doesn't even have a 4-head. He has a 5-head. His hair is all the way up here. It's like a 6-head.
It is a very drastic change from the shot you see him directly before he changes.
It's pretty over the top. Like,
it's very bad.
With the tongue and everything, it is like kind of elevated to a. I don't know, I kind of like it though. I got to be honest with you.
But my ugly, because I actually think it's worse than what Eric just said, is Corey Feldman's, I think I want to be Rambo for the rest of my life, and I'm going to talk like this through the whole freaking movie because Joel Schumacher said it's going to work, and it really didn't. I sound like a dumbass through this whole movie. Look at my red bandana. Oh, yeah, all the girls are going to love me. Love you, Rambo.
You're slipping into Macho Man there a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Bonesaw's ready.
Oh, yeah. We'll snap it to a Slim Jim. But, yeah, that's my ugly is where Eric was just bad. That's the ugliest is his acting.
Nice.
So I'm good.
Jenny?
My good is the look of the vampires just in general. The kind of half monster thing I really enjoy. The bad, the bugs is food. I don't need it in any movie. It takes me out of movies that it's in a lot because I have to look away. I can't watch it. And then I have to come back, but I'm still thinking about what I didn't see. So yes, very bad. The ugly. That song.
I told you I got it right.
It's not the entire soundtrack. It's that song. And I think I've pinpointed throughout this time that it is the kids singing.
The choir?
The choir. It sounds like creepy kids, and I don't like creepy kids in movies. So
Is that
I'm
why
out.
you don't like my kids?
I like your kids. They're not creepy.
Unless it's his damn son.
Charlie's a little creepy.
Little Nanook.
Josh.
Little
So
Nanook is a sweetheart. Go ahead.
good for me is like Jenny's the vampire aesthetic in general in the movie. I love the contacts. I love the teeth, like even so much as like the placement of the teeth.
Yeah, it's
because
different. Mhm.
because normally the vampire teeth would be the canines that would grow, and they have them like right next to your front two teeth. In this one, I always thought that was very unique in how they did that, and just the way their faces change and the bone structure and all that changes when they vamp out. I think that's what really makes this movie a very standout vampire movie. The bad is Sam's wardrobe. Sam's wardrobe in this movie is just god awful, and
He's an 80s fashion victim.
Yeah, and
absolutely,
and I watched
shoulder pads.
Yeah, and I watched some of the. They did like a behind the scenes thing, and there's a lot of interviews with Joel Schumacher in that, and he said his idea for Sam was he's this mall kid who's now in a rural area, and he just sticks out like a sore thumb, where like if he were in California proper, he'd fit right in, but he's in this podunk area of Santa Carla, and he doesn't quite fit into that mold. I see why they did it, but God, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Yeah, the shoulder pads with the trench coat.
Yeah.
Rolled up
design.
sleeves or pushed up sleeves. That's good stuff.
Pretty horrible.
And Corey Feldman is line in that, if you're looking for the diet frozen yogurt bar, it went out of business last month or whatever. But the ugly is, in particular, Sam's pajamas the next day at breakfast after he finds out Michael's a vampire, with the little stick figure kids on it with the... It is
I didn't think that was pajamas. I thought that was a shirt.
Whether it's pajamas or it's his actual wardrobe, whatever, that is... I'm sorry, Sam's wardrobe is getting hit over the head multiple times from me.
Again, he's dressing like a small child.
Yeah. So that would be my good, the bad, the ugly. So. And then our last segment is staff picks.
Attention for this week's staff picks. Attention, this week's staff picks.
Staff picks.
Staff picks.
I'm going to start with staff picks tonight. Being that we're talking about a vampire movie, I'm going to go with a vampire TV show. Can you guess which one? What We Do in the Shadows, ladies and gentlemen.
Great.
I love the movie What We Do in the Shadows so much. And when I found out they were doing a TV show based on it without the same characters, I was a little perturbed, because Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement and the other guy that's in What We Do in the Shadows, that movie is so good, and I would even throw that out there for my staff pick. But the TV show, I thought I was going to hate, and I avoided it, and we have been watching it, and oh my God, it is hilarious.
Fantastic.
The episode we just watched had Mark Hamill as a guest on it, and that whole episode was amazing. And if you like vampires, if you liked the movie What We Do in the Shadows, and you were a little taken aback by that they weren't using the same cast, watch the TV show, because
that's
it is very good.
Because I love the movie, and I have not watched the TV show because I figured it was just a knockoff, and I wouldn't like it.
That's exactly why I haven't watched the TV show, so now I have to watch it.
And I'll even
staff picks.
And I'll even give you a spoiler, like Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement's character do show up in the TV show.
Oh, nice.
So that'll give you another reason to kind of watch. But it's a great TV show. I laugh my ass off every time we watch an episode of it. Jenny, your staff pick?
My staff pick is also a TV show. It's a documentary, though. It's The Vow on HBO. It's about the NXIVM cult. I don't know if anybody out there knows what that is. I did know about it before the show. But if you find cults interesting at all, I would recommend it, because the way that it's presented,
Are you recommending the cult or the
I'm recommending the show.
I need to go join
cult.
a cult now, because Jenny said it's good to do.
You can join Jared Leto's cult. He's got one.
Yeah.
Oh my
Let's
God.
not talk about that. But the way that they present this documentary, it's going to end up bad. in the end, because they're not making a documentary about a cult for good reasons.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't like save the world or anything.
It's not a good cult.
It's not a good cult.
Ah.
So
And Jenny and I are watching it together, and it's funny. They get you roped into the show with the stuff that these people were preaching and what got people into it. And it's like, wow, this really does sound kind of cool.
It's smart the way they do it, because even throughout all the bad stuff, spoiler alert, there's bad stuff in a cult, that they're doing, they are continuing to show you like propaganda from the cult. And it's really is interesting, and you can see how someone could get sucked into it, because a lot of the principles that they talk about are based in psychology, and they're just twisting them to their advantage, to, you know, make you think that you need them above everything else in your life. But I would highly recommend it. It is fascinating. And
what's it called again?
The Vow.
The Vow. Okay.
And if anybody out there that would be listening are fans of the CW show Smallville, this kind of got some headway in the news because a couple of the people from that show were involved in this, namely the girl who plays Chloe and the girl who plays Lana Lang. They were involved in this.
This is like a sex cult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of how this is. That's one reason it got a little, because they prey on famous, beautiful people. So, but yeah, I mean, we've been watching it and we are hooked on it right now, and I can't wait to see where it ends up. I know it's going to be a bad place, but it's definitely something that we've been drawn into. Not the cult, the show.
Not the cult, not the sex cult.
Jason, staff pick.
Oh, my stat pick. I had just finished up on Netflix. I'm going with the newly acquired show by Netflix. We'll get a third season next year. Cobra Kai on Netflix, because I wanted some old school Daniel LaRusso, Mr. Miyagi feel going on, and I've read good things about it, and I just hadn't checked it out. So I've recently binge watched season 1 and 2 on Netflix. I believe it was originally a YouTube show.
Yep.
Correct. And I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I really want to go practice my crane kicks in the backyard now. But it's a cool show because it picks up years later. Good old Johnny, the bad guy, quote unquote, because I think we've had this discussion, who was really the bad guy, Daniel or Johnny. That is a debate. Has had a rough go at it, and Daniel has prospered, owns a whole bunch of car dealerships and stuff, and it's been a good watch. It really takes you back, because you get all these flashback scenes too of their match from the original Karate Kid movie. It's even a couple from even Karate Kid 3. Back when Daniel actually joins Cobra Kai, because they trick him into it. But it's definitely a good trip down memory lane. Even though all these characters are older and everything, it really takes you back to when you were a kid and you were watching Mr. Miyagi train Daniel and everything, because Daniel himself decides to take a kid that's been picked on, like Mr. Miyagi did with Daniel. It takes him under his wing and starts Miyagi-Do and does a dojo. But even though the show's called Cobra Kai, it does focus mainly on Johnny and him restarting Cobra Kai, even after all the bad things his sensei did to him. He starts it all up because he wants to be cool and everybody needs to kick ass. So I've never heard the words kick ass and so much 80s hair metal played by one guy. Johnny is still stuck in the 80s. He doesn't know what the internet is. He doesn't know what Wi-Fi is. He thinks, if you do it, you're a wuss. So
that's funny.
Yeah,
go ahead, Josh, if you're going to say something.
I was just going to say, I started watching it. I started watching the first episode the other day, and I kind of stopped, and I wanted to put it all. There's been a lot of buzz about this lately because it's now on Netflix.
I've seen some of that as well. Yeah, I've heard lots of good things about it.
And I kind of wanted to hold off on it until we got to where we were talking about Karate Kid, so I could kind of go into it a little bit with that. So
I just because I kept seeing it and needed something to watch in between what we do here for the show, and I binge watched it. It was a really good watch. Some good dramatic moments, some life lessons learned in there. You see Johnny learn, but I recommend go out if you just want to kind of relive some of the childhood feelings from when you watch Karate Kid 1, 2, and even 3.
But not the next Karate Kid.
Yeah, not that one or
Not
the
Hilary
one with
Swank.
Jackie Chan. No, definitely not. But it's a good watch. I recommend it. Cobra Kai on Netflix.
Cobra Kai.
All right, last but not least, Eric.
For me, it's going to be another Netflix show, Ricky Gervais's Afterlife. He writes, directs, and stars in this kind of dramedy. He plays a guy who loses his wife to cancer, I think, and it's a very sad show. It's about grief, and but it's also very funny. I like a lot of British panel shows, and if you do too, you'll see some familiar faces in this show. And it's really well written. He's great in it. He kind of gives up on his life. He's sort of suicidal, but he does not care about social norms anymore. So that brings a lot of comedy into it, where he basically says whatever's on his mind all the time because he doesn't care. He doesn't care if he dies. He doesn't care about anything anymore.
Wow.
But it's a sad show. It might make you cry or tear up. But it's really smartly written, and I like all the performances in it. And it's got 2 seasons up there. They're not long. I think they're maybe 8 episodes each, so it's not like some big undertaking. And there's a 3rd season coming, so it's a great show. A nice little change of pace from some of the stuff, some of the more intense stuff that we watch a lot, crime stuff or whatever. And it's really just about people and about relationships and about life, and it's a good watch for sure.
All right. Well, I wanted to close out the show on a brief little thing here. Jenny and I lived in Virginia for a brief period of time, in Norfolk, Virginia, to be quite precise. And when we were there, we had our love for our movies, and there was a independently owned video shop there by the name of Narrow Expanded Cinema. These people had anything you could ever want in this video store. It wasn't like your Blockbuster. I mean, this was like a literal library of movies. And they were really big in the community there. We went there all the time. We were constant customers. They always allowed dogs in. And it was really kind of, it's the spirit of what we're about here. And I just kind of wanted to bring them up because the past couple of years they had been forced to shut their doors. People aren't renting movies anymore. And I found an article that all these movies they had in storage after they had to close their doors, and they have donated all of the videos they had there at the Narrow to Old Dominion University in Virginia to be free to the public.
Sweet.
And
Nice.
it struck a chord with me, and because of what we're doing and talking about the movies we love and our love for being able to go do that, I just thought it'd be good to bring that up and say we really missed the Narrow. That was one thing about Virginia that if I could have taken it with me, it would have been that. And I think it's really cool what they did and making their collection available to the public for free now, since they can't,
Yeah.
But
it was always a place where they actually knew who you were coming in. And that's really hard to find nowadays, that personal connection with someone who owns a business.
Mm-hmm.
And you felt like they were in this because they absolutely loved every second of what they did. They loved movies. They wanted to bring movies to other people. They had everything separated by genre. It was like a maze in there. You literally had to ask them
every nook and cranny
to
of
find
that place.
a movie.
Yeah.
If it was anything that wasn't going to be like a new release or a more popular known movie, you needed to ask.
They had
them.
foreign film sections separated by French and German and all this stuff. And the thing
sounds amazing.
And they were very knowledgeable in the fact that you could go to them and be like, I'm looking for this movie with this guy and blah, blah, and they could find it for you. They were basically human index cards as far as that store went. And that place left a very big impression on me. And I was very sad when I heard that they had to close their doors. It was like a part of my, even though I didn't go there as a child and it wasn't my video store as a child, like a part of my childhood just kind of felt like it weeped away there when I heard that they had to close their doors. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the narrow expanded cinema in Virginia. If anybody that listens to our show has been, is from that area, you know what I'm talking about. That place was amazing. So I just wanted to call it out because it deserves it. But that'll do it for this episode of the VHS Files, talking Lost Boys. So next week we'll be coming back to continue the Friday Night Fright Fest in October. And we're talking a horror comedy next week, Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice.
We're here for your daughter, Chuck.
So please
Go for your daughter, Chuck.
stay tuned to next week for Beetlejuice. We will have that out for you. And then we'll be doing another childhood one that we've actually gotten a lot of requests for after that. So tune in next week to find out what that movie will be. But until then, like we do every episode, close it out with Be Kind, Rewind.
Bye.
Later.
Bye.
It's over. You've been listening to the VHS Files podcast.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe and drop us a rating and a review wherever you get your podcast.
It was fun.
Email us your comments, questions, and movie suggestions at the.vhsfiles@gmail.com.
I've seen one too many movies.
Follow us on Facebook at VHS Files Podcast.
Don't you blame the movies!
On Instagram at VHS.files.
Movies don't create psychos!
On Twitter at VHS_files.
Movies make psychos more creative!
And head over to our YouTube channel at the VHS Files Podcast for more content. Thanks for listening.
Kind of glad we stopped there because I was trying to say if Kenny G was a bodybuilder, but I couldn't think of Kenny G's name.
It's a twister. It's a twister.
We have cows. Best line in the whole movie.